In a cozy home in Kampala, Ajang was busy in her kitchen. Everything seemed normal until her daughter Nafula rushed in, waving an envelope. "Mom, guess what? Baba isn't my real father," she exclaimed with a big grin on her face. Ajang took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. The kitchen was quiet, except for the soft hum of the fridge. Nafula looked pleased, and Ajang could feel her heart racing. "Look what I found," Nafula said, dropping the envelope on the kitchen counter. "These are my DNA results!" "Can you explain why Baba isn't my biological father?" As Ajang dried her hands on a towel, she was nervous. She had known this day might come, but she didn't expect it to happen like this. "How long have you been lying to us?" Nafula asked, crossing her arms. "Does Baba even know, or have you been tricking him all these years?" Taking a deep breath, Ajang looked at her daughter's face, which reminded her of when she was younger. "Sit down, Nafula," she said softly. "We need to talk about this." Nafula rolled her eyes but sat in a chair, still angry. "Fine. Explain how you've been living a lie for 17 years. This should be interesting." Ajang's daughter Nafula had just opened a door to the past that she had tried to keep closed for a long time. Not because she was ashamed, but because some truths are too heavy for kids to handle. She began, folding her hands on the table. "Everything I've done has been to keep you safe." Nafula rolled her eyes again. "I want the truth." "The truth is complicated," Ajang replied carefully. "Before we go on, I need to know what you want from this. Do you want answers, or are you just trying to hurt me?" Nafula hesitated, her confidence fading a bit. "I deserve to know who my real father is," she finally said, but her voice was softer. "Yes, you do," Ajang said, "but not like this. Not to use against our family." "Family?" Nafula laughed bitterly. "What family? It's all built on lies." "No, it's built on love," Ajang insisted. "Your father, the man who raised you, knows you're not biologically his. He has always known." Nafula's eyes widened, and her story began to fall apart. "What? But I met your father when I was already pregnant with you," Ajang explained, watching Nafula closely. "I was scared and alone at 22. He didn't have to stay. He didn't have to love us, but he chose to every day." "But why didn't you tell me?" Nafula asked, her voice shaking. "Because some stories need time," Ajang said, reaching for Nafula's hand. "You needed to be old enough to understand that family isn't just about being related. It's about making choices in love." "Then who is my biological father?" Nafula asked quietly. Ajang closed her eyes for a moment, remembering. "His name was Ronald, and that's the part I've been trying to protect you from." "I want to know," Nafula insisted, looking vulnerable now. Taking a deep breath, Ajang prepared to share the story she had hoped to tell when Nafula was older. "I met Ronald in university. He was charming and ambitious, and we dated for almost a year before I got pregnant." Nafula leaned in, eager to hear more. "What happened when you told him?" "He made it clear he wasn't ready for that responsibility," Ajang said carefully. "He told me to take care of it, and when I refused, he disappeared." "Just like that?" Nafula whispered. "Just like that," Ajang replied. "I tried to reach out to him, but he blocked my number and changed his email. His parents offered me money to stay away." "Did you take it?" Nafula asked, her eyes wide. "No," Ajang said firmly. "I wanted to give you a life filled with love, not secrets. I dropped out of university, went back home, and worked 2 jobs to prepare for your arrival." Nafula listened, her earlier bravado fading. "But how did you meet Baba? I mean, Bahati?" A small smile crossed Ajang's face. "I was working at a coffee shop, 7 months pregnant and tired. Bahati was a regular customer, always kind. One day I almost fainted while taking his order. He helped me sit down and brought me water. He didn't care that I was pregnant with someone else's baby. He said it was like getting 2 miracles for one." Nafula's lip trembled. "He really chose us?" "He did," Ajang confirmed. "We got married when you were 6 months old. He legally adopted you because he wanted everyone to know you were his daughter." The kitchen was quiet as Nafula processed this information, her earlier confidence crumbling. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I thought I was exposing a terrible secret. I wanted to hurt you." Ajang moved to hug Nafula as she cried. "You're 17, sweetheart. Being angry is part of growing up. But next time, talk to me, ask me. Don't try to use our history against us." "Is Baba going to be mad about the DNA test?" Nafula questioned, looking up. "No," Ajang said softly, stroking her hair. "He's always known this day would come. We just hoped you'd come to us first." "I want to hear it all," Nafula said, wiping her eyes. "And I want Baba here too." "I'll call him," Ajang said, reaching for her phone. "But remember this, the truth is often different from what we think. The stories we tell ourselves about others aren't always simple." As Ajang called Bahati, she watched Nafula sink back into her chair, the DNA results forgotten. Nafala looked younger, more vulnerable, like the little girl who used to crawl into their bed during storms. Bahati answered the phone. "Hey love, everything okay? Nafula took a DNA test," Ejang said. "It's time for that talk we've been preparing for." There was a pause. Then Bahati said, "I'll be home in 20 minutes. We'll do this together." As she hung up and looked at Nafula, she could see the worry in her daughter's eyes. "He's on his way," Ejang told her. "Are you ready to hear the whole story?" Nafula nodded, and Ejang could see the change in her, her defiance replaced with openness. "Yeah, I think I am." Bahati arrived 20 minutes later, and Nafula tensed slightly when she heard him come in. He appeared in the kitchen doorway looking at them. "Hey, sweetheart," he said gently, putting down his briefcase. "Your mom told me everything." "Baba, Nafula began, but Bahati hugged her tightly before she could finish. "It's okay," he whispered. "We've been waiting for this. I just wish you felt you could come to us first." As they embraced, Ejang felt so much love for Bahati, the man who had chosen them. When they finally let go, Bahati kept one arm around Nafula as he sat next to her. "So," he said, looking at both of them, "where should we start?" "Mom told me about meeting you," Nafula said quietly. "About how you chose us." Bahati smiled at Ejang. "Best decision I ever made. But there's more to the story, right?" Ejang nodded. "Yes, you need to know what happened after that, about Ronald trying to come back." Nafula's eyes widened. "They tried to come back?" Taking a deep breath, Ejang continued. "When you were 5, Ronald showed up at our door. He had seen a photo of you at his parents' house. They had been keeping an eye on us." "What did he want?" Nafula asked softly. "He said he made a mistake," Ejang recalled. "He finished law school, started a good job, got married, but something was missing. He couldn't stop thinking about the daughter he had left behind." Bahati's expression tightened, but he spoke calmly. "Tell her what you said to him, Ejang." "I told him he lost the right to be your father the day he walked away," Ejang said, holding Nafula's hand. "Being a parent isn't something you can just pick and choose when it's easy. Your Baba, Bahati, has been there for every moment, every fall, every fear, and every success. He is your father in every way that counts." Nafula looked at Bahati, uncertainty on her face. "Did Ronald fight you on it?" "He said he would take us to court," Bahati replied steadily. "He thought he could prove he was the biological father and wanted partial custody." Nafula's eyes grew wide. "What did you do?" "We fought back," Ejang said simply. "We had proof he abandoned us. Plus, Bahati had legally adopted you, so we had the law on our side. But more importantly," Bahati added, squeezing Nafula's shoulder, "you were old enough to be affected by a custody battle. We didn't want to put you through that pain. Just because Ronald suddenly wanted to be a Baba. He eventually backed off," Ejang continued. "I think he realized that pursuing it would only hurt everyone, especially you. But he did ask for one thing," Bahati said. "He wanted us to tell you the truth when you were old enough to understand, that he regretted his choices and had grown up." Ejang paused, watching Nafula's expression. "We agreed, but only when we felt you were ready." Nafula thought for a moment. "Do you know where he is now?" Bahati and Ejang exchanged a look. "Yes," Ejang said carefully. "He's still nearby. He has his own law firm downtown and 2 other children with his wife, my half-siblings," Nafula whispered. "Biologically, yes," Bahati said gently. "But you need to understand that just because you share DNA with someone doesn't mean they have a right to be in your life. That choice is yours to make when you're ready." Nafula looked at Bahati, tears in her eyes. "But you'll always be my real Baba, right? No matter what?" Bahati hugged her again, his own eyes shining. "Always, sweetheart. Nothing can change that." As Ejang watched them, she reflected on all the moments that had led them here. The day Bahati first held Nafula, her first steps toward him, the father-daughter dances, and bedtime stories. "I feel so silly," Nafula said finally, wiping her eyes. "I thought I was going to expose a big secret, but instead you learned that family is more complicated and beautiful than just biology," Ejang finished. "That love is about the choices we make every day." "The DNA test," Bahati added, "doesn't change who we are. It doesn't erase our history or lessen our love for you. It just shows that choosing to be your father was the best gift of my life." Nafula picked up the envelope from the counter, holding it with shaky fingers. "Can we throw this away?" "I don't need it anymore," Ejang smiled, tears in her eyes. "Of course." They watched as Nafula tore the envelope into pieces, letting them fall in the trash. As she did, Ejang saw a change in her, a sense of peace washing over her face. "Mom," Nafula said softly, "Baba, I'm sorry for trying to hurt you and for not trusting you enough to ask. We understand, Ejang reassured her. Growing up means asking questions and figuring out who you are. But next time, come to us first. We never wanted to hide anything from you. We just wanted to protect you until you were ready for the whole truth. Bahati agreed. Now that everything is out in the open, we can talk about what you want to do next. If you have questions about Ronald or your biological family, we'll help you find those answers when you're ready. Nafula shook her head. I don't think I want to know right now. Maybe someday. She looked between them, her expression softening. Right now, I just want to be here with my real family. The three of them sat in the kitchen as the evening light came through the windows, their family growing stronger after facing this challenge together. Nafula's DNA test meant to hurt them had instead brought them closer, a reminder that the important bonds in life are those we choose to nurture. That night, after Nafula went to bed, Bahati and Ijang relaxed on the back porch, his arm around her as they looked up at the stars. You okay? He asked softly. Ejang nodded, leaning into him. Better than okay. I think this needed to happen. It might not have gone as planned, but Nafula needed to know the truth. She's stronger than we realize. Just like her mother, Bahati said with a smile. Ejang turned to him, grateful for the man who had chosen to be a part of their lives. Thank you for everything, for loving us so completely. He smiled back, pulling her closer. Thank you for trusting me with your heart and with Nafula. Inside, they could hear Nafula moving around in her room, probably getting ready for bed. The sound was familiar and precious, reminding them of all the little moments that made their love story special. Do you think she'll want to meet him someday? Ejang asked quietly. Bahati thought for a moment. Maybe, and if she does, we'll support her. But today showed her something important. The truth isn't always what we expect, and sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the one we're born into. Ejang nodded, feeling peaceful. The secret she had held for so long was out, and that made everything clearer. Their family wasn't perfect, but it was real, built on love and the daily decision to be there for one another. Nafula's DNA test, meant to tear them apart, had only brought them closer. It reminded them all that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love and support each other through every storm. As Bahati and Ejang sat under the stars, she thought about all the choices that had led them here, every decision, every struggle, and every moment of doubt and faith. She knew with certainty that they had created something beautiful, a family connected not by DNA, but by unconditional love. If you like this type of story and want to hear more, please remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more exciting content. Your help is very important. Thanks for joining us on this adventure.